All right, in this explainer, we are diving into an ancient Hittite myth that, I gotta say, on the surface is one of the strangest you will ever hear. But trust me, underneath all the bizarre details, there's this profound story about humanity, divinity, and the power of a simple, selfless act.
You know, we usually think of myths as these huge, grand tales of creation or these cosmic battles between gods and monsters. But what if the real point of a story was hidden in plain sight? What if it wasn't celebrating the strength of some big hero, but the generosity of a totally ordinary person?
Our story begins, as a lot of them do, with a god looking down from the heavens. But his attention isn't caught by a queen or a nymph. No, it's something way more unexpected.
So you have the mighty sun god, right? The shepherd of all humanity. And he sees a cow, just peacefully grazing. He's so overcome with desire that he comes down from the sky. And in this divine act that kind of blurs the line between the sacred and the strange, he unites with her.
Now, the result of this is what makes the story so wild. We're not talking about a minotaur here. A perfect two-legged human child is born. But this miracle is immediately met with just confusion and rejection. The mother cow is horrified by this creature that doesn't look anything like her, and she wants nothing to do with him.
So, the son of a god, born from a cow, starts his life not in some celestial palace, but as a total outcast, abandoned to the harsh realities of the mortal world. And the chain of events here is just swift and brutal. The child is born, immediately rejected by his mom, and left in the wilderness probably to be eaten by wild animals. But just when it seems like all hope is lost, fate, or maybe his divine dad, steps in.
A poor fisherman, whose biggest sadness in life is that he and his wife can't have children, just stumbles upon this infant. In a world full of danger, he doesn't see a burden, he sees a miracle. He sees an answer to his deepest prayers. His reaction is just pure faith. He immediately looks up to the sky and thanks the sun god. He has no idea, of course, that the god he's praying to is literally the kid's absentee father. He and his wife take the boy in and they raise him as their own.
So years pass. The boy grows up. He's loved in this humble home. But his divine father hasn't forgotten about him. He decides it's time to check in on his son, but not in any way you'd expect.
The sun god and his vizier Bunen, they disguise themselves. They don't show up in a blaze of glory. No, they appear as these weary, poor travelers, knocking on the fisherman's door, asking for a place to stay. They're ready to put their host's character to the ultimate test. And you gotta remember, the fisherman and his wife are still incredibly poor, but without even a moment's hesitation, they welcome these strangers in, and they give them everything. Not just some of what they have, they give them the very last of their supplies, leaving absolutely nothing for themselves.
Just stunned by this selfless generosity, the sun god can't maintain his disguise anymore. He reveals his true divine identity in a flash of light. That's called a theophany. He blesses the fisherman and his wife for passing his test with this unwavering kindness, proving just how worthy they are.
Now, this feels like a really heartwarming folktale with a nice moral, right? Be kind to strangers, you'll be rewarded. But Hittologists, the experts who study this stuff, they believe this story had a much more specific and practical purpose.
So yeah, it totally works as a folktale and a moral lesson. But scholars argue its main function is something more specific. It's an etiology. Okay, so what in the world does that mean?
An etiological myth is basically just an origin story. It's designed to answer the question, why is this thing the way it is? Or where did this sacred object come from? It gives a history and a deeper meaning to something that people might see every single day.
And this is the myth's ultimate purpose. The entire story, the god, the cow, the fisherman, it's all the divine biography for a physical object. It explains that the cult statue worshipped in the great temple in Aleppo isn't just carved stone or metal. It is the son of the sun god, raised by a mortal of perfect character. It gives the object a soul.
This story doesn't just tell us about a statue. It tells us something really profound about how the Hittites saw their gods. They weren't always these distant cosmic forces. Sometimes they were playful, they were curious, and they were very, very close.
This whole concept is captured by a fantastic Latin term, Deus Ludens, which means the playing god.
It's this idea that gods get bored or curious, and they come down to the human world to play, to test us, and to interfere, often in disguise.
And this isn't unique to the Hittites, not by a long shot. This theme is universal. Hundreds of years later, the Greeks would tell countless stories of Zeus disguising himself as a swan or a bull, or even a shower of gold, just to interact with mortals. The Hittite sun god testing the fisherman is part of this long, timeless tradition of divine hide-and-seek.
So a story that begins with this bizarre, almost comical premise ends with a seriously powerful idea that divinity isn't just found in thunderbolts and on mountaintops, but can be revealed in the quiet, selfless act of sharing your very last meal with a total stranger. It really makes you wonder what other sacred truths are hidden in the stories we thought we knew.